Time Prisoner. One Girl Lost in Ancient Egypt. Episode 7. The night over the palace did not feel like an ordinary night. It felt stretched, too quiet and too sharp at the same time, as if the world was listening for something. Somewhere above, the two stars that had moved toward one another throughout the day now burned as a single, brighter point in the sky. Carol could feel it even through stone. Memphis led her away from the council chamber in silence. Their footsteps rang in the narrow hallway, accompanied by the faint crackle of torches in iron brackets along the wall. The air inside the palace had cooled, but there was still a dryness to it that rasped at the back of her throat. He did not release her arm until they reached a smaller side room at the end of the corridor. Guards stood there, but they stepped aside as soon as they saw him. Memphis pushed the heavy wooden door open and gestured for her to enter. It was a private chamber with a single narrow window and a low table surrounded by cushions. A clay lamp burned in one corner, casting a soft, flickering glow across the walls. "Sit," Memphis said quietly. Carol lowered herself onto one of the cushions. Her legs felt less steady now that they were no longer moving. The adrenaline that had carried her through the council chamber was wearing off, leaving behind a strange mixture of exhaustion and sharpened awareness. Memphis remained standing for a moment, his back to her, hands braced on the edge of the table. His shoulders rose and fell with his breath. "You should not have had to face them like that," he said. "I needed to," Carol answered. He looked over his shoulder at her. "You needed to? Or they needed you to?" "Both," she said. He studied her for a heartbeat, then sat down across from her, still tense. "They heard you," he admitted. "That does not mean they believe me," Carol replied. "No," Memphis said. "But some of them now doubt their own fear. That is more than we had this morning." Carol lifted her hands and looked at them. The memory of the stone tablet remained lodged in her skin, like a temperature that refused to fade. "When I touched it," she said, "it was like touching the moment I arrived. Here. The same cold. The same feeling that there was a hole in the sky." Memphis watched her carefully. "Did it hurt?" "No," Carol said. "But it felt conscious. As if something in this world remembered me." He did not dismiss her words. That was something she had come to appreciate about him. He believed in omens and symbols, but he did not let priests tell him what to think about them. "Some of those men," Carol continued, "looked at me as if they wanted to study me. Others looked as if they wanted to lock me away. Both of those feel dangerous." Memphis's jaw tightened. "The ones who want to study you will hesitate. They will want more time. The ones who want to lock you away will not." A faint murmur reached them from outside, voices drifting up from a lower level of the palace. It sounded like the distant roar of a crowd, muffled by stone. Carol frowned. "What is that?" Memphis rose and crossed to the narrow window. He had to tilt his head downward to see through it, since the palace sat on a raised platform compared to the city streets outside. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "The city is awake." Carol stood and stepped beside him. The window was small, but together they could see enough. Below, beyond the palace walls, torches dotted the city like a scattering of stars laid over the streets. People moved in clusters, gathering near the larger temple courtyards. Chanting drifted upward, too far away to make out words, but heavy with rhythm and urgency. "They are looking at the sky," Carol realized. The merged star burned like an eye above the horizon, brighter than any other point of light. Memphis nodded. "There have always been omens. Comets. Eclipses. But never this pattern. Not in a lifetime that anyone remembers. And they think it is because of me," Carol said softly. "Many do," Memphis replied. "Many do not know what to think at all. That is almost more dangerous." He turned away from the window and faced her. "The council will feel that pressure," he said. "They will know that the city is already stirring. They will want to act before fear turns into something they cannot contain." "The decree," Carol said. "Yes," Memphis answered. "They will try to use it again. Tonight. Tomorrow. Until it sticks." She wrapped her arms around herself, not because she was cold, but because she needed something to hold. "I cannot stop the sky," she said. "I cannot stop what they think the stars mean." "No," Memphis replied. "But you can control how you stand under them." She met his eyes. "What does that even look like?" she asked. "Do I hide? Do I speak more? Do I pretend the stars are not moving?" Memphis's gaze moved over her face, searching. "You did something in that chamber tonight," he said. "You changed how some of them see you. For the first time, you were not just an omen. You were a voice. Carol exhaled. A voice in a room that wants to talk over me. A voice they could not ignore, he corrected. A knock sounded at the door. Memphis's back straightened instantly. Enter. The door opened. Seti stepped inside, his expression taut. Behind him, Nari hovered in the hall, worry written in every line of her body. My king, Seti said, bowing. Forgive the interruption. There is news from the city. Memphis gestured sharply. Speak. The temples are full, Seti said. The people have gathered to watch the stars. Priests are saying that the fourth shift marks a judgment. Carol felt the words settle on her like dust. Judgment of what? She asked. Of the kingdom, Seti replied. Of its ruler. Of its strange guest. Nari slipped into the room, closing the door behind her. Some servants say that the high priests in the outer temple want the council to act quickly. They say doing nothing is an insult to the gods. Memphis's eyes darkened. The outer temple has no authority here. Authority is not what they are using, Seti said quietly. They are using urgency and fear. By morning there will be stories in every street that the heavens are angry. Carol felt a pressure building behind her ribs. They will try to blame me for everything, she said. Yes, Seti admitted. But the people will listen to whoever speaks loudest and first. Memphis looked at Carol again. Something had settled in his expression, a decision still forming. The council wants you silent, he said. They want you hidden away so they can define you without your presence. Carol nodded slowly. Yes. Then we will not let them, Memphis said. Seti blinked. My king, Memphis continued, his voice steady. If they want to make her the center of their fear, then we will make her the center of something else. Carol's throat felt dry. What are you suggesting? Tomorrow at first light, Memphis said, I will appear before the people in the temple courtyard. Seti stared at him. That is dangerous. In this climate, exactly, Memphis replied. I will not let them think I hide for moments. Or from her. He turned to Carol. You will stand beside me, he said. The idea struck harder than any decree. Beside you, she repeated. Yes, Memphis said. Not behind. Not tucked away. Beside. Let them see that I stand with you under the same sky. Let them see that their king does not fear you. Seti looked conflicted. The council will argue that you are provoking the gods. They already think that, Memphis replied. At least this way, we claim the first image the people see. Nari spoke softly. If you do this, everyone will know her face. They will tie her to the stars forever. They already have, Memphis said. He looked at Carol. This is your choice, he added. I will not push you. If you say no, I will find another way. Carol felt the room tilt for a moment. She saw herself standing beside him in the open, the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. She saw the council, the priests, the whispers, the fear. She also saw herself back in a small room, behind closed doors, while others spoke in her name. All her life, even before she fell into this world, she had hated being reduced to an object in someone else's narrative. She had spent years studying history to understand the stories behind ruins, the lives behind broken stones. She knew what it felt like to look at a person only as an artifact. She did not want to become one. I am already a symbol to them, she said slowly. They made me that the moment they decided the sky moved because of me. Memphis did not interrupt. So maybe, Carol continued, I should decide what kind of symbol I am. Memphis's eyes held hers. Is that a yes? Carol's heart pounded hard, once, twice, then steadied. Yes, she said. I will stand with you. Nari inhaled sharply. Seti closed his eyes briefly, as if bracing himself. Memphis's shoulders relaxed by a fraction, but his gaze remained serious. Then we will prepare. He turned to Seti. Have the courtyard guarded. Choose men who answer to me, not to the council. I want no surprises from the shadows. Yes, my king, Seti said. Nari, Memphis said, help her rest. She must be steady tomorrow. No one will see her shake. I understand, Nari replied. Seti moved to leave, then hesitated. There is one more thing, my king. Memphis frowned. What? A message came from Lady Anx, Seti said. She requests an audience before dawn. She says it regards the reaction of the council to your plan. That was fast, Carol murmured. She always moves fast when the board changes, Memphis said dryly. He considered a moment, then nodded. Tell her we will see her in the inner garden, just before sunrise. Seti bowed and left. The room grew quieter. The lamp flame crackled softly. Nari stepped closer to Carol. Are you certain you can do this? No, Carol answered honestly. But I know I cannot do nothing. Nari's eyes softened. Then I will be beside you until you must stand beside him. When Nari led her to the adjoining sleeping chamber, Carol paused at the doorway and looked back. Memphis still stood there, framed by the narrow window and the lamplight. The merged star outside cast a faint glow along the edge of his profile. Memphis, she said. He lifted his gaze. If tomorrow goes badly, Carol said quietly, they will not just question me. They will question you. Your rule. Your right to stand on that platform. They already question those things, he replied. I would rather be questioned for standing on the side I chose, instead of the side fear wants. Something tightened in her chest. Sleep, he added more gently. The night will be short. Carol nodded and stepped into the sleeping chamber. As she lay down on the low bed, staring at the ceiling painted with stars that could never match the ones outside, she listened to the steady murmur of the distant city and the quiet beat of her own heart. Above the palace, the merged star burned on, and somewhere between sky and stone, a line was being drawn that she could no longer step away from. The first light of dawn had not yet touched the horizon when the palace began to stir. Servants moved like shadows through the corridors, carrying lamps and buckets of water, their footsteps careful, aware that the entire kingdom felt on the edge of something unspoken. The merged star still glowed faintly overhead, as if refusing to yield to the coming sun. Carol barely slept. Her eyes opened the moment Nari touched her shoulder. It is time, Nari whispered. Carol pushed herself upright. Her heartbeat was not frantic, but steady, as though her body had already accepted what the morning required. Nari helped her dress in a fresh white linen gown, its weave fine and soft, the cloth catching light even in the dim room. A gold ribbon circled her waist, simple and elegant. Carol's hair fell in long blonde waves down her back. Nari smoothed it gently. You look like the sky will listen to you, she said softly. Carol exhaled, half a laugh, half a tremor. I hope the people will. When they left the chamber, the hallway was cool and quiet. Seti waited at the end, his posture straight, his expression alert. My lady, he said with a respectful nod. The king is waiting in the inner garden. Carol followed him through winding passages until the air shifted from the scent of torch smoke to the smell of morning dew. They stepped into the inner garden, an enclosed rectangle of palm trees, stone benches, and a reflecting pool that mirrored the faint, violet-blue sky. Memphis stood at the edge of the pool. He wore ceremonial white linen with a wide gold collar, the morning light catching the metal and turning it into a pale fire around his shoulders. His posture was calm, but there was a tightness around his jaw, the kind that only appeared when he was preparing for something dangerous. He turned as Carol approached. For a moment, he said nothing. His eyes studied her, not critically, but with a depth that made the space between them feel charged. You look steady, he said quietly. I do not feel steady, Carol replied. That is how courage works, Memphis said. Before she could respond, footsteps approached from the opposite archway. Anks emerged, accompanied by two handmaidens, but striding ahead of them with the confidence of someone who never needed an escort. She wore a fitted white dress embroidered with gold thread, her long black hair braided into narrow strands adorned with lapis beads. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes were sharp and awake. Memphis, she greeted, then shifted her gaze to Carol. You look stronger today than yesterday. I am not stronger, Carol said, just more determined. Anks's eyebrow lifted slightly. That is the only strength that matters on a day like this. Memphis stepped forward. You asked to speak with us before the gathering. Yes, Anks said. Her voice lowered. Because the council is moving quickly, faster than you expect. Seti tensed. What have you heard? Not all council members attended the night watch, Anks said. A small group slipped away to the priests of the outer temple. They want to combine their authority and issue a joint declaration. Memphis's expression hardened. On what grounds? That the fourth shift is complete, Anks said, folding her hands. And that withholding action is an offense to the gods. Carol felt a cold thread run down her spine. Does that mean they will try to imprison me again? They want more than that, Anks answered, her gaze steady. They want control of the narrative. They want to speak first, before you and Memphis appear before the people. If they speak first, you will be walking into their version of the truth. Carol swallowed. What will they say? Anks paused, then answered simply, that you are a sign of judgment. A silence followed. Memphis's voice carved through it. They will not have the first word. It may already be too late, Anks said. The priests are preparing. Memphis stepped closer to her, his voice still calm, but edged with steel. You came here at dawn to warn us. What? Anks held his gaze, unflinching. Because if this spirals out of control, the throne becomes unstable. And unstable thrones mean unstable kingdoms. Chaos invites foreign attention. The Hittites, the Assyrians, none would ignore a weakened Egypt. Memphis lowered his voice. And your concern is for Egypt? For Egypt, Anks said, and for survival. My own included. Carol watched her carefully. And for me. Anks hesitated, but only for a moment. Whether I like it or not, she said, your fate and mine are now tied to the same star. If they destroy you, they weaken him. If they weaken him, the kingdom shatters. And if the kingdom shatters, none of us win. It was the closest thing to solidarity Anks had ever offered. Carol nodded. Then let us not let them speak first. Memphis looked between them. Something settled in his eyes, a decision becoming a vow. Seti, he said, signal the guards. We will move to the temple courtyard before the first horn. Seti bowed and hurried out of the garden. Anks stepped aside, folding her arms. Then I will prepare the palace women. They will spread word that you walk with purpose, not fear. Sometimes the story begins before the storyteller arrives. She left through the far archway, her silhouette sharp against the brightening sky. Carol turned to Memphis. Do you truly believe this will work? Memphis moved closer until the morning light framed both their faces. I believe that standing still is more dangerous than stepping forward. And I believe that fear loses its power when confronted with a human face instead of a rumor. He held her gaze. Let them see you. Not the omen they imagined. Carol drew a breath, slow and steady. Then let us go before I lose my nerve. You will not lose it, Memphis said. You did not lose it last night. You will not lose it now. He offered his arm. She placed her hand on it. And just as the first sliver of sun broke over the horizon, they walked out of the garden toward the grand staircase, toward the temple courtyard where hundreds of eyes would be waiting. Behind them, the merged star flickered once in the brightening sky, refusing to fade, almost as if it wanted to watch. The temple courtyard was already crowded when Memphis and Carol reached the top of the grand staircase. The rising sun cast a pale gold glow over hundreds of faces packed into the open space. Merchants, soldiers, mothers holding children, elders wrapped in linen shawls. Every pair of eyes was lifted toward the sky first, then toward the palace steps where they now stood. The merged star was still visible in the fading darkness, a single bright point refusing to yield to daylight. A hush rolled through the courtyard as people began to recognize who was approaching. Memphis slowed for a moment, scanning the crowd with the calm intensity of a man who had lived his entire life observed by thousands. Carol felt the weight of those same eyes settle on her. Her heartbeat tightened, but her steps remained steady. Nari trailed a few paces behind, along with Seti and two trusted soldiers. They stayed close, but not close enough to overshadow the scene. Memphis had insisted that Carol must appear unguarded, present, not protected. When they reached the broad landing halfway down the stairs, Memphis stopped. Carol stopped beside him, and the courtyard went silent. The crowd parted slightly as priests from the outer temple entered from the eastern gate, their white robes gleaming in the morning sun. They moved with slow, rehearsed solemnity, as if preparing for a ritual. Behind them, several council members appeared, their expressions tight with urgency. Seti muttered under his breath. They came faster than expected. Memphis did not look away from the crowd. They want their moment, Carol whispered. Then we take ours first. Memphis nodded almost imperceptibly. He stepped forward. A young boy near the front gasped, then dropped to one knee. Others followed, though Memphis had not commanded it. The movement spread in ripples, kneeling in pockets, standing in others, an uncertain mixture of awe, fear, and expectation. Memphis raised one hand. My people, he said, his voice carrying across the courtyard with deliberate strength. You have gathered to witness the turning of the sky. Every head tilted upward. The merged star pulsed faintly, as if acknowledging him. You have been told, Memphis continued, that the heavens speak judgment. You have been told that the presence of one woman has shaken the order of our world. A collective murmur traveled through the crowd. Memphis extended his other hand toward Carol. She stepped forward, heart pounding, but chin lifted. This woman, Memphis said, is under my protection. She has stood before me with honesty when others hid behind fear. She has walked beside me in the open when others whispered in the dark. Some in the crowd nodded slowly. Others stared in wary confusion. A priest from the outer temple stepped forward abruptly. Your Majesty, the signs in the sky began the moment she arrived. The ancient texts warn of this pattern. Memphis lowered his hand, but not his intensity. The texts warn of fear, not of her. And I will not allow fear to become a weapon used against someone who has harmed no one. Carol felt the pressure of eyes shift again, less like judgment now, more like consideration. The priest lifted a scroll. My king, the council has deliberated. A decree has been drafted. Before he could finish, Memphis spoke sharply. A decree written out. Of panic, not wisdom. The priest hesitated, thrown off rhythm. Memphis stepped aside enough so Carol was fully visible beside him. If the people of Egypt wish to look at the sky and ask questions, then let them ask me. Let them ask her. Let them seek truth from the living, not fear from a scroll. The priest stiffened. The fourth shift is complete. The heavens call for action. Carol stepped forward before Memphis could respond. Then ask the sky what it wants, she said, her voice clear and steady. But do not decide who I am without ever speaking to me. Do not lock me away because you fear silence. If I am to be judged, I ask only that I be seen. The courtyard went silent. Even the morning birds stopped for a beat. Carol continued. You believe the stars moved because of me. But I did not choose to come here. I did not choose the sky or the omen. I only chose to tell the truth. A woman in the crowd called out. Why did you come? Carol looked directly at her. I do not know. I was taken from my world without warning. I woke in your desert with no answers. I am learning this world as you are learning me. A murmur rose, soft, conflicted, but no longer sharp with suspicion. Another voice spoke, this one an older man. Are you a curse? No, Carol answered gently. I do not believe any person is a curse. Not by birth. Not by fate. Someone else shouted. Then why did the sky open? Carol hesitated, because she did not know. But Memphis stepped forward, voice strong and unwavering. If the heavens open, they do so for reasons beyond any one woman. Egypt has survived storms, droughts, wars, and omens. We do not break because the sky changes. He looked at Carol, then at the crowd. We face change together. The courtyard stirred again, quieter, more thoughtful. But the moment was shattered by the deep blast of a ceremonial horn. The western gate opened. A line of high guards marched in formation. Their armor caught the morning light, bright and cold. Behind them, carried by two priests, was a large stone tablet, different from the one in the council chamber. This one was larger, older, cracked along the edges. The council leader stepped forward, his voice amplified by tension. Your Majesty, this tablet was found beneath the temple foundation. It records the prophecy of the fourth shift. The final line is clear. The sky will open for one who does not belong to this world. He pointed at Carol. Gasps rippled across the courtyard. The council leader raised his voice. The prophecy warns that Egypt must act decisively, or the heavens will choose for us. Memphis stepped directly between Carol and the tablet, his voice dropping into a dangerous quiet. You bring this here today to provoke fear. We bring it because the people deserve the truth, the council leader retorted. Carol felt the world tilt. The crowd leaned in, their faces a mixture of curiosity and dread. Nari whispered urgently behind her. They want to corner you. They want you to react. But Carol did not step back. She stepped forward. Then let me see it, she said. Memphis turned, startled. Carol, I will not hide from what is written, she said. If everyone else gets to look, so will I. The crowd murmured in astonishment. The council leader hesitated, then signaled for the tablet to be lowered. Two priests set it on the stone ground. Carol approached slowly. The surface was carved with symbols, spirals, stars, a figure standing beneath a tear in the sky. The final line glowed faintly in the morning light. Carol touched the stone. Not cold this time. Warm. Almost pulsing. A flicker of light trembled along one of the carved lines. Gasps echoed around her. Memphis reached out, ready to pull her back, but Carol did not move. She kept her hand on the stone, and the merged star above them suddenly flared brighter, flooding the courtyard in an otherworldly glow. The people fell silent. The council froze. Memphis's breath caught as he stared at the sky. Carol whispered, barely audible, "The sky remembers me." And then, the stone tablet cracked. The crack did not sound like breaking stone. It sounded deeper, older, like something beneath the world shifting in its sleep. A sharp line split across the center of the ancient tablet, spreading in a jagged path toward Carol's hand. Dust lifted from the surface as if released after thousands of years. The crowd drew back in a wave of startled motion. Even the priests flinched. Memphis moved instantly. He grabbed Carol's wrist and pulled her back just as the crack widened. The two priests who had carried the tablet stumbled away, their faces pale. The merged star overhead pulsed again, washing the courtyard in a cold, silver-blue light that did not belong to the sunrise. Carol steadied herself beside Memphis, her breath catching. Her hand still tingled, warm, not from heat, but from something she could not name. The council leader regained his voice first. "This confirms it," he shouted. "The prophecy reacts to her presence. The stone breaks because she stands here. Egypt stands on the edge of danger, and the heavens warn us through her." The crowd stirred, voices rising in confusion, fear, awe. Some stepped backward. Some stepped forward. None looked away. Memphis placed himself fully in front of Carol. "Do not twist what you cannot understand," he said, his voice low but carrying through the courtyard. "The tablet is old. Fragile. It cracked because time has weakened it. Time did not make the sky flare," the council leader snapped. "Time did not make the symbols glow beneath her hand." A priest stepped forward, pointing at Carol with a trembling hand. She awakened the stone. Whispers multiplied like sparks in dry grass. Carol felt her pulse thundering, but she forced herself to step out from behind Memphis. She would not be hidden. Not now. Not with all eyes already on her. She faced the crowd. "I did not break your stone," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "But I will not deny that I felt something when I touched it. Something familiar. Something that has followed me since the night I appeared in your desert." Another wave of whispers swept the courtyard. Carol continued, louder this time. "You want answers. So do I. I want to know why I am here. I want to know what the sky is doing. I want to understand the force that brought me to your world. But fear will not give us those answers. Fear only closes doors." A man near the front shouted, "Are you the omen?" Carol looked directly at him. "No. I am a person. A stranger caught in something neither of us fully understands." Memphis stepped forward to stand beside her, not in front. "The sky does not choose sides," he said. "People do. The council has chosen fear. I choose truth." The council leader lifted the decree scroll. "Truth? Then hear this truth. The council votes today on a motion to place the foreign woman under divine custody. She will be confined until the priests determine whether she is a danger to Egypt." Carol felt the words like a tightening band around her chest. Divine custody. A polite way of saying imprisonment with no promise of release. Memphis's expression darkened. "You dare issue this decree in front of the people? Without my consent?" "The heavens have given their consent," the council leader replied. A roar of conflict spread through the crowd, some supporting the council's caution, others denouncing its arrogance. Seti leaned toward Memphis. "My king, the high guards are shifting formation." Memphis saw it too, elite guards moving subtly into positions around the courtyard, closing gaps slowly, cutting off exits. Not openly aggressive, but ready. Ready for what? Carol wondered. Memphis spoke quietly, his voice dangerous. "This decree is illegitimate. It is binding," the council leader insisted. "Signed by a majority." Carol stepped forward before Memphis could answer. "Then let me speak to them," she said. Memphis turned to her sharply. "Carol, if I run, they win," she whispered. "If I hide, they control the story. But if I speak, if I stand here, they will have to face me, not the omen they imagine." He stared at her, torn between fury and fear. But finally, he nodded. Carol stepped toward the stone landing above the crowd. The fractured tablet lay at her feet, split open like a wound in the earth. "I want answers as much as you do," Carol said. "But answers do not come from locking me away. They come from asking the right questions." The merged star pulsed again. Carol lifted her face to it. When I fell into your world, the sky was moving. When I touched the tablet, it reacted. But maybe the prophecy is not about punishment. Maybe it is about change. Maybe the sky is telling us that something new is coming, and you are afraid because you do not understand it yet. The courtyard fell completely silent. Even the council hesitated. Carol continued, her voice softer but more resolute. I do not know what I am to your prophecy, but I know what I want. I want to stand with you, not against you. I want to learn. I want to help. I want to understand why the stars brought me here. She placed her hand on her chest. But I cannot do that from behind a locked door. A tremor of emotion passed through the crowd. Some touched, some conflicted, some still fearful. The council leader sensed the shift and raised his scroll high. She is dangerous precisely because she speaks like this. She pulls your sympathy even as the heavens warn you. If we delay action, Egypt risks the wrath of forces beyond our understanding. Memphis stepped forward, voice deep and unyielding. And if we act blindly, Egypt risks losing its humanity. The word struck like a blow. The council leader hesitated, just enough. Then he gestured to the high guards. Take her. The crowd gasped. Memphis moved first, placing himself directly in front of Carol. Seti and the loyal soldiers drew closer. Nari grabbed Carol's arm. But the high guards advanced in a tight formation, silent, precise, trained to obey the council above all else. Memphis, Carol whispered, fear prickling down her spine. He did not move. You will not touch her, he said, his voice sharp enough to cut stone. The high guards did not stop. A line had been crossed, one that could not be uncrossed. Priests raised their staffs. Council members shouted. People surged forward in panic. And in the chaos, the merged star above them flared one final time, brighter than sunrise, casting long shadows across the courtyard as the high guards closed in. Carol felt Memphis grip her hand. Tight, certain, defiant. Stay with me, he said. And the courtyard erupted.